Never believe. Yeah, yeah, I know you see it, but I don't believe it. So this is what I always do. I always go to my Twitter profile, right? And then I scroll down. Hold on, I'm almost there. And then what I do is I scroll down and I see it. We're live now. Now I press retweet because that's what I do. That's my thing. And I see it. That's it. We did it.
We did it.
We did. It's so exciting. And now I turn down my music. Okay, so that's it. I love my music, and now it's gone. That's it. That's us, man. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm so happy we have a chance to have this talk, and we have a chance not only to have this talk, but to have so many people join us. Right? Isn't that kind of cool?
It's very cool. I mean, I think this is how we develop shared facts, exchange opinions about our worldview, and form an actual consensus. You know, I like how you pointed out the internet actually seeks to balkanize us in these information ghettos, but these type of conversations actually build consensus where we can all, scale the love.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing. Yeah, I've observed the internet. Now I'm 54, so I feel kind of like that old guy because I can say I remember when, but I do remember when. And the internet has gone from like this, it used to be a mobilizing force. We used to all talk about like how it was going to bring the world together. And then the elites turned it into this demobilizing force. And so now you're right. It is allowing us to share facts and information. And I didn't think about it that way, but I do see that the world is going through like this centrifugal, like, those rides that they have at the playground or something where it spins around and then you're stuck to the wall. It's like centrifugal force, and everybody is atomized, right? I hear something in the background. Is that you or is that me?
It's either the echo from this or it's on you, but we'll see.
Okay. All right. So I see that the world is becoming kind of atomized, and everybody is. I found the word solipstic, so I love that word, man. And everybody has their own kind of truth now, right? They even have their own vocabulary. They even have their own words. And so my words don't mean the same thing as everybody else's.
Right.
It's kind of weird. So that's a good point you made. So thank you so much for saying that. And thank you for spending this time with me, man. That's awesome.
Well, it's nice to be with you, Adam. I've seen you've been on a tear on Periscope. You've got the method down. You've got the method down better than a lot of us. So kudos to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I like Twitter Live. I like Periscope because it's a way of regaining intimacy, right? And we all feel that we've lost that. And the other thing I like about it is Periscope is like it's on a feed, right? So on YouTube, it's a destination,
right?
But on Twitter, Periscope, it's on a feed, and it's a much more engaging experience because I get to see all these people and I get to say hello to them. So, for example, my friend here, Generator 16, where he says, "Let's go," and thank you.
Let's go.
I know. That's really. Does it. So, I'm going to. Would you mind introducing yourself to everybody? Would that be all right?
Yeah. So my name is Ali Alexander. I happen to be the national organizer for the Stop the Steal protest that you're seeing across the country. We're in 7 states, but really focused on 5 states. But every Saturday we meet at the respective state capitals, all 50 of them across the nation. We did the DC March where hundreds of thousands turned out. And all we're demanding is fair elections and transparent counting. 99% of us probably happen to be Trump supporters, but not everyone, because there are a lot of Democrats who too realize that the elections have likely been rigged against them. And but other than that, for 14 years, I've worked in the Republican Party and the conservative movement. Those are 2 separate things, just for everybody who needs to know about politics. And but I've always been an activist at heart. So, what we say is, if you're a consultant, you get paid for your work. If you're an activist, you don't get paid for your work. Activism is where my heart is, and but I pay the bills through being a consultant, both to PACs, campaigns, nonprofits, but also business donors who happen to be political, but also do stuff on the side. Well, I shouldn't say stuff on the side, their main work. And they bring me in because I'm prepared for crisis situations.
Yeah, and you're remarkable. And you and I started speaking a lot and DMing a lot in 2018, right?
Yeah, I
Because
think that was.
you are so active, and you were kind of like the hero of that moment. And it was wild observing it because you were the hero, but you were kind of like combating a lot of your own GOP forces. I mean, they were certainly kind of like your own obstacle.
Yeah. So in 2018, election night, I had published. So I have a website. So I have clients. That's how I pay my bills. But then I wanted to do a public-facing product. So I have something called founders.olliealexander.org, and that's where people who can't afford my services or would never need me on a retainer pay like $25 a month or up to $250 a month, and they have access to conference calls with me and analysis. And so a couple nights prior, I had published a worksheet, and I said, we are going to lose the House. We're going to expand the Senate. And I called about 60 different races because I wanted to be the #1 political forecaster in the country. That was my personal goal. So I developed this 14-page worksheet where I said, if you fill out this worksheet throughout the night, you'll be able to beat Fox News. You'll be able to beat all the rest of them. And sure enough, I was right. But there was an anomaly, right? So everyone could say, wow, Ali's premise, it's almost like in finance. If you build a model around a worldview or trends that you think are coming with emerging markets or technology, people say, oh, you're directionally right. So all these other things are also going to be true. Well, in politics, it's like Ali's model was right, but there were these anomalies. And I said, those anomalies are fraud, and that's easy for a forecaster to say, but I said, I'll prove it. And so in Orange County, we had ballot harvesting all in California, but in Orange County, they had ballot harvested in a way that I did not think was probable. I still don't think was probable. In Arizona, there was also fraud. And there was a weird dynamic between the GOP that wanted to challenge it and the GOP governor that wanted to shut it down. That struck me as odd. And then in Georgia, we had a situation between Stacey Abrams and now Governor Brian Kemp, but then Secretary of State Brian Kemp, in which the race was tighter than I thought. And then a judge was actually ruling that people could vote after Election Day. And I said, that's odd. And then in Florida, in Broward County, and about 2 or 3 other counties, including North Palm Beach, they started finding ballots. And I was irate, and I went to Periscope, and I said, why in the F, I didn't say F, why aren't you guys protesting in the street? They're stealing your election. And Jack Posobiec said, we need to stop the steal in Florida. And I said, well, get your butt down there. He said, I'm going to Poland. They were celebrating the 50th anniversary of something or the 100th or something. And so he said, you need to go. So Jack Posobiec and I teamed up, and I raised money online to send myself and a team. I didn't get paid for my services. We paid for flights, rental car, signs, water. That's what we paid for. I think we raised a total of $11,000 for me to put me and myself and a team out there for 7 or 8 or 9 days. And we protested. What the remarkable thing that happened in Broward County is that once I landed, the ratio and the margin between the ballots that they were finding between Democrats and Republicans, obviously favoring Democrats, slimmed. And I said, that's the behavior of a criminal. And then while we were on the ground, Laura Loomer was a journalist who's affiliated with Stop the Steal, got a hot tip from the airport. We both drove down there, and we found ballots. We found ballots in an Avis rental car at the airport, rented out by a union thug affiliated with Brenda Snipes, the Board of Election Supervisor. So my nickname in Broward County is the hero of Broward County because I saved Rick Scott's Senate seat, and we kept Ron DeSantis out of the governorship. Now, I don't brag about this because it's actually a sore spot for me because there are GOP forces, including a consultant who is affiliated with Sheldon Adelson, who tried to shut me down. They called me and told me to get off the plane, do not go to Florida. And I said, wait, why wouldn't I go? I'm going to play this right. And they're like, Ollie, we're scared what the activists are going to do. I said, I can control the activists. Because remember, I exist in both worlds, the grassroots and the establishment. And I knew what they were saying wasn't true. So I went anyway. I said, this is the end of my career.
Well, what were they saying? What does that mean? They're afraid of the activists.
They were afraid that somebody might do something wild or stupid or dangerous.
So they were afraid of you guys as activists.
Not me. They were afraid of the people, and they thought, well, if Ali's there, it'll add more people. So we want Ali not to be there so that the grassroots are mad for a day or two, but they'll go away. If Ali's there, they'll be there for a week or two.
So just so I understand, so that side, the Sheldon Adelson side, was trying to restrain you and your activist, and it wasn't his fear of the Democratic activist acting out.
That's true, and here was the logic. Sheldon had agreed to pay for the RNC's legal bills, and they said, well, this will blow back on Sheldon. And I said, nobody knows he's paying the legal bills. How would it blow back? I knew I was being lied to, and I don't want to say the gentleman's name who claims to work for Sheldon Adelson and does work for Don Jr. But this is a guy in the party who claims behind the scenes to control MAGA Twitter to donors. And I'm tired of that crap. I'm tired of the gatekeeping. I am an American citizen who is concerned that my neighbors in Florida were not having their votes counted whole. There is nothing more important in this country. No social issue, no tax issue, no national security issue. And the idea that someone who's not paying me would tell me to get off a plane that I had already boarded it felt like slavery. It was one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, and I watched everything you were doing in 2018, and I was cheering you on. I thought it was just really awesome because it's such a fraud. I mean, what they've been doing is such a fraud, and it really disenfranchises the people there, right? I mean, it just does so much kind of a morale, like destruction to the people that are voting there. And it was so obvious. It was just so explicit. And without your presence there, it would have just continued to happen. And, it was remarkable. And I could see that they actually, from my view, which was just on Twitter and a little bit on the web, I could see that they didn't want you to win. And I told you that. I DM'd you and I asked you if they franchised you, right? I said you were so effective for 2018. And that was even the word I used because I think of you in business terms, right?
Yeah.
Is now I've got to replicate you. I've got to turn you into a franchise, right? So that means I'm going to put you through a couple of personality tests. I'm going to kind of figure out, I'm going to benchmark who you are, and then I'm going to replicate you into different markets. And I'm going to build basically businesses around you in each of the markets. And they didn't do that.
Yeah, they didn't do that. And it's worse than that, Adam. The day that I decided that I was going to leave, because, I use Twitter as my disclosure tool. I'm the most transparent activist, occasional fundraiser, political consultant in the business. And so I said, okay, tomorrow I'm leaving Florida. Here are the people I'm leaving behind. Here's who I'm leaving in charge. And here are the next items that we needed to accomplish. And the day I left, the next day, Ronna Romney McDaniel, the RNC chairwoman and the niece to Mitt Romney, flew down and held a press conference where I had been for over a week, where I had sweated, where I had broke my hair, where I had shed tears, where I had prayed with the residents of Broward County. She came and held a press conference in front of my crowd and raised over $150,000. It was AstroTurf. And the party usually doesn't go this far. So, and I've never to this day received a thank you call from Senator Rick Scott, from Governor Ron DeSantis, or Ronna Romney McDaniel. And that's when I said, okay, well, I'm never going to do this again. I was like, not only did I not get a thank you, which thank yous kind of make me uncomfortable anyway, but I'm a known quantity in this business. I'm not some random internet activist.
But thank yous are important. And I've learned this throughout my career is that thank you is kind of like a recognition and it's appreciation. And it does mean something to us as a person, to our own identity, to have like all that discretionary effort recognized. It actually does mean something to our identity because in our minds, we're saying to ourselves, I'm putting out extraordinary effort here. I'm putting out a lot of discretionary effort. And in your mind, you're saying, I'm proud of myself because I know what I'm doing. And so that recognition and appreciation, I think, does matter.
Well, yeah, I will tell you this. You know, my dad left when I was 2. I have a very competitive relationship with my mother, and some people consider me a mean person online, and I'm not going to say that I'm not. What I will tell you is this: is thank yous and compliments make me uncomfortable because I don't know how to respond. I do like pleases, but what I will tell you is what made it worse was that I was mocked. I was mocked in a private conversation between Romney McDaniel and someone else. They called me a quote troll. And I worked as the deputy digital director for Scott Brown in 2010. I helped stop the initial Obamacare. I co-founded the Tea Party movement. I've worked 100 federal campaigns. I'm a known quantity within the party. I'm not just an internet personality. I don't just have a lot of followers. That's second. My Twitter personality is second to my career. I helped change the digital landscape as one of the first 20 digital strategists in the Republican Party back in 2007. So the idea that I would be called that for helping people in Florida, I just said, well, I just don't want to do it again. And so, you know, a thank you would have been nice, but not calling me names behind the scenes would have been, I just thought, common decency. And now that I got recruited back into running Stop the Steal 2020 by Scott Pressler, Brandon Straka, a bunch of other big names, I'm on a tear. We're going to take this party over.
Amazing. You're amazing. I'm so impressed with what you've done. And you've got critics, and I want to discuss that because I want to be fair to them also. I think it's important. But, you know, I'm a Democrat. Everybody knows I'm a Democrat, right? I mean, you can Google and you can see, you know, we've given a lot of money. We've hosted, we've raised.
Yeah, you're a Democrat donor. You're not just a Democrat voter.
I am. I know. And we've given a lot. And, but, you know, I spent, 30 years. When you work on Wall Street, there's it's almost pay to play. You really have to give. So when I hear about like this person gave 1,000 or 2,000, I know that that's really meaningless because I've been that guy and they knock on my door and they're like, listen, you're going to give and it's your
go away money.
Yeah. And, it's kind of cool because, occasionally you'll go to those very intimate dinner parties. And I'm really not interested in seeing the politician because I always have access to them and I probably have their cell phone anyway. But I'm also interested in being in the room with those other people. So I understand the connectivity of the whole thing. And, it's a science and it's an art form, as you well know, right?
Yeah.
But I'm rooting for you with what you're doing because I'm just seeing the entire country being disenfranchised, right? And I know I know more immigrants than I know people born in America, right? And I'm delighted because I see so much of the American dream of entrepreneurism in them. And they love America and they love the entrepreneurship and they all want to succeed. And I see them being disenfranchised because we would speak.
Some of the loudest voices in what appears to be an election theft are immigrants. Okay. Immigrants are saying, especially immigrants who are victims of communism or socialism or rigged elections, are saying, I've seen this before. You go down to Miami right now, and there are Stop the Steal protests in all kinds of cities that we're not even organizing. People know what they're seeing, and it's only decadence in this American middle class that is kind of mind controlled by CNN that is like, wait, what? But everyone else knows what we're seeing. The immigrants, the Africans, the South Americans, and the Eastern Europeans all know what we're seeing. The Chinese immigrants all know what we're watching right now. This is an intelligence operation between foreign adversaries and domestic enemies, and they are stealing the presidency. And it's not against Trump, it's against us, we the people.
Yeah. And I expected them to do this, right?
You did.
It's horrible, but I really expected them to do it. And I expected it to play out exactly as it's played out. I thought that the public would be very apathetic to it, that I thought that they would cheer. And inside, they know that it was a theft. They definitely do, but they're cheering because they think that sometimes a theft is okay. And I've spent a lot of time, I'm writing kind of like this history of this moment that we're living in, right? I've discussed that a lot. So this theft has now become a big part of that power roll-up. because I really felt that they needed Biden in there to codify the megacorp rule and the elite rule. And the elites in America and now in the world have solved the impermanence of power. And they don't care about cheating. They just don't care about cheating. And what comes next has to be even worse. They've just disenfranchised half of the country. And so I expected this to happen. So I'm just so appreciative of what you and Stop the Steal are doing. And I hear a lot of pushback sometimes, and I see what people are tweeting, and they're not as appreciative of it as I am, because they think Loeffler should. They think that she should have no hurdles to jump, and they think that somehow she's going to be some savior of America, and that she's going to kind of stop. She's going to that when the mob comes to her house, she's going to like chase them all away, with a bat.
Yeah, it's dumb. It's just dumb. You can't tell the American people that their election was stolen, which it was, and then tell them we're going to keep in the same rules, the same officers, the same ballots, same machines, the same additional mail-in voting, same Stacey Abrams and her big old fat cloud overseeing a get-out-the-vote effort for the Democrats. And January 5th is going to be somehow different. That is an insult to our intelligence. That is a lie. And what does the lie seek to cover up? Because you either have to believe that the Republicans are in on it, and there are people who do, or I think is more likely is that the Republicans feel so helpless because they don't want to elbow other Republicans. I am here to be the monster that allows good friction to take place, to allow Republicans to turn on Republicans for the betterment of we, the people. And so right now there is a coup inside my party to save the governor from criticism because they've already accepted that Trump's lost. If you think that Trump can still win, then you don't protect the governor. If you're protecting the governor, you think that Trump has already lost. I believe Trump has not lost, and I will not accept that Trump has lost probably ever. And I think that this governor, who was the previous Secretary of State, has made at minimum mistakes, but it may be actually worse than that. And so Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, who are both caught in a runoff, what I'm telling them is release a press release. By the way, Adam, just between you and me, the GOP dragging me yesterday cost them votes because I wanted Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue to do something that meant nothing. That I could say, hey, we got a victory, guys. I could lie to the base with them. So I'm not saying there actually has to be a special session. I'm not saying that they actually have to do anything. I'm not saying they have to go to war with Brian Kemp. And now the cat's out of the bag that Ali was trying to show for the party, and then they made me regret that. So cat's out of the bag. All I wanted was a paragraph statement that you want to clean things up, and we couldn't get that. That's a bad sign for a dumb party.
Yeah, it's really interesting to watch, and I'm an old New York liberal, right? So I've seen my own party transform to what I used to hate about the GOP. Do you know that? I've seen. I remember when the GOP was the party of insisting on open borders and open immigration and just turning America into a shopping mall, and now that's kind of the Democratic Party, because I think that hurts the middle class, the lower middle class, the economically disadvantaged. Everything that I disliked about. I hear a little bit of an echo, by the way, I think on your side.
I wonder if I need to put this on something.
Nah, don't worry about it. It's gone now. It's gone.
Okay.
It happens, right?
Yeah.
So I've, in a way, I feel kind of like I need what you're doing to succeed, because I don't feel attached to the current Democratic Party, right? And I definitely don't like the GOP, right? I don't like the GOP. I don't think they did anything to defend Trump. In less than a year, they were able to impeach Trump, right? That Ukraine thing happened so quickly. There was There was no resistance to it from within the Republican Party. And every time you would see a Republican, they would be bombarded by media. The media would be surrounding them, and the media would be saying something on the attack of Trump and putting that politician in a position where they had to defend Trump, and they never did.
Yeah.
So I need you to succeed, for me, because I need something to attach myself to, and I can't be the only one, right? I see all these people in Chicago being disenfranchised. I see all these people in Baltimore, their kids are getting killed, and their politicians have failed them also. I mean, this is a real problem.
Well, look, I think that we need Stop the Steal to succeed because we have to answer a fundamental question. Do we live in a republic?
Yeah.
Or not?
Yeah.
And the question of do we live in a republic then answers a fundamentally spiritual question and a philosophical question. And that's that are the rights granted to you, not managed, because they're managed by people who control force, but are they granted to you, the fundamental ones? Are they granted to you by God, a higher power, a consensus or an idea, or a body of men that control force? And that is a deeply spiritual question because of the doctrine of Christian liberty. And that is that you could exist in a monarchy, or you could exist in a socialist government, or you could exist in a democratic republic. But if the steward of that power, no matter how authoritative it is, abuses it, then you have a right or a moral obligation to overthrow it with as much force as only necessary. And so what we are answering right now is, do we live in a system of politics, or do we live in a system of war that's disguised by propaganda? And I think that this is why a lot of people have had conversations in the past 2 weeks that they have never wanted to have. And I will tell the American people, I hear you. Give me time to win, because we are actually trying to save them from what comes next.
Yeah.
So we should all hope, and I want to say this, when I was in Broward County, I want to say 20% of our support was from Democrats. Tim Canova, who ran in the primary against Debbie Wasserman Schultz there, he had his primary rigged. A lot of Bernie supporters recognized that parts of Florida were rigged. This, I think this has fewer Democrats supporting us in Stop the Steal 2020, and we're nationwide. Polarization occurs as you scale, blah, blah, blah. But there are Democrats who realize if machines are rigged.
Well, do you think that the Democrats, there's a lesser amount of Democrats supporting you, or do you think they're just not as visible or vocal about it as they were in 2018?
I think it's probably a combination of both. They're uninterested in the outcome. The outcome is Trump wins. So, they're like, whatever. And and just like the Republicans who are saying stupid stuff in the Georgia primary, they think, well, this election may be rigged, but they're not going to do it again. Not this egregiously. Maybe
do people really believe that? Do people really believe that they're not going to do this again?
Adam, that is the majority opinion.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so obvious.
I think it's abuse. You would tell a woman who got hit once to leave, and she doesn't. And this is why cycles of abuse occur. And it's natural.
I mean, it's so obvious that they're just going to do this again. It was very clear in California, although there wasn't really any forensics on it, or from what I saw, any real postmortems on it. It's very clear in California that there was just ballot harvesting like crazy, right? And that there was no intervention. The GOP did not do any intervention in that whatsoever. And they were clearly very happy to have those seats turn over. Mitch McConnell was under no threat. Nobody was under any threat. And then in Florida, I didn't feel, I have a house in Florida. So I'm on Marco Island, which is one congressional district over.
You're a good New York Jew. If you have a house in Florida too.
Yeah, we always migrate there. That's just where we are. That's kind of like our Mecca. We always wind up there. And so I did know a lot of Democrats that were rooting for you, and they hate Debbie Wasserman because we know the tactics that she does. She'll forget to put names on ballots, or she'll send them to, we just know all of her tricks. I've seen them all, and I don't vote there, but we've seen them all. But it is amazing to me that people, on one hand, I see people saying, Trump should fight on forever, and that's Trump, and he's a real fighter. And those same people, some of them are saying, but Ali has to stop because he's hurting the GOP. And I'm like, if it wasn't for Ali, Trump would have had to have already resigned. If it wasn't for the Stop the Steal moment or for the Stop the Steal movement, Trump would not have had that kind of organized support, both the emotional support and the popular support to be able to continue with his challenges.
Right. There's a narrative. One, men's morale and mood, their fight, is determined by the narrative and how they feel. And Stop the Steal changed both. Also, people need to look at the personnel. Is that the campaign, unfortunately, Adam, has been gutted. 60% of Trump's campaign is gone, MIA. People who are still getting paid, who are refusing to go to work. And I know this as a primary source. And so there are a lot of unfunded and underfunded efforts, including my own, that are supplementing what the Trump campaign should be doing. And but we're talking about hundreds of people, maybe thousands, maybe a couple thousands of people who should be helping Trump right now that are literally not. And the RNC is doing nothing about it, and Trump's doing nothing about it. And what people need to realize is that the whole legal team that we had in place election day that did nothing, they left shortly after. So when people are like, oh, I don't like Rudy, it's all we're left with. Okay? And if there was no Stop the Steal, then when the first legal teams quit, when the first campaign directors quit or stopped going to work, there would be nothing. Trump would have conceded. So a lot of people say, oh, Lee, you guys aren't to credit for Trump not conceding. He's a bold figure. This is his personality. And I just have to remind them of some of Trump's more human moments. And this is Trump would have conceded if there was no Stop the Steal protest the very next day.
Of course, he would have had to. I mean, just by popular demand, he would have had to.
Popular demand by Republicans too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember seeing. I guess this was actually I remember the date because it's all in my log. So, but I don't remember it right now. I remember the date, but I don't remember the month. But I remember it was the 13th. Mitt Romney may have been May actually. I don't know. But Mitt Romney came out with some type of statement about the America coming together, and I remember I texted Jack Posobiec, and I said, this is like this speech that Romney's going to give when Trump loses by a very shadowy type of numbers. This is the speech that Romney's going to give. The country has to heal, and we just have to move on and accept Biden as the winner. Oh yeah, they were very clearly ready to take out Trump the next day, without any contesting it, without any challenges, and without any opportunity for Trump to have any type of real rebuttal to the public. And you guys are his rebuttal.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that I credit other people. In Nevada we have Michael Kudre, Courtney Holland, Megan Barth. In Michigan, Brandon Straka took his walkaway team with Mikey, Michelle, and I can't remember the other one's name. In Wisconsin, we had Alexander Bershowitz and Ashley Sinclair. In Pennsylvania, we had Rose Tennant, a very popular radio show host, and Scott Pressler, who everybody loves. In Georgia, we had C.J. Pearson, Chandler Crump, and some other folks. We have Daniel Bostic helping out. In Arizona, we had Congressman Gosar, who's been our spirit animal, and Mike Cernovich helped out very early there. In DC, we have Ed Martin, who runs the oldest conservative group in the world, the Phil Schlafly's Eagle Forum. And so, these are the heroes to me. These are the people who keep me going. These are the people who have their own budgets, own organizations, and then ask me to be the router. And I fight for them. I represent them. The public is good. Trump is good. The RNC is whatever. But at the end of the day, these are my friends who called me and lobbied me into this position. I didn't want to do this, Adam. Scott Pressler texted me at 7 and 9 a.m., a series of texts, and I wasn't ever going to reply to them. and he said, I have airline miles. I'm
That's
scared.
remarkable.
I'm full of passion, and I don't know what to do. Please tell me what to do. And I went to brunch with some guys I was mentoring, and then a couple of other people who came to my election night watch party. And they said, one of the guys I mentor, said, if you could change the world and stop some suffering, Ali, why wouldn't you? And it was that conviction that I realized I could never mentor these guys. I was tired though, Adam. I had worked for 3 months, 18 hours a day on the JoeBidenIsSick.com and other efforts where I put my own money up. And I spent $25,000 on JoeBidenIsSick.com, and I raised about $2,000. I had friends who wouldn't even retweet the evidence that Joe Biden is very, very, very sick, let's just say. And I'm like tired of getting kicked around. I can go to Silicon Valley and make a lot of money. I can go work in culture and fashion. It's well known who I'm friends with and famous people who have relied on my counsel. It's well documented. I could go be doing something else. Politics has cost me probably millions of dollars in opportunity. No, it certainly has cost me millions of dollars.
Can I tell you something? It has. I mean, that's my world. So I can tell you, I know one of the things that you've done, it's really been remarkable. And Cernovich has done also. And I'm sure there's others, but you and he and maybe a few others are the ones that I kind of most actively pursue on Twitter and watch what you guys are doing. So you guys have done something incredible, which might even be impossible going forward, right? Which is you've taken all this online energy, which is already very fragmented and under assault, and you've taken all this online energy, which is being treated as the adversary, right? You guys are the adversary to how the media would like to push out its own messaging, and you've taken that energy and you've transformed it into something real, right? You've mobilized all that energy, and people think that that's easy. They have no appreciation for how much effort that is, and the worst part of it is it's not only that much effort, and it's not only that people don't appreciate it. In many ways, people resent it that you're not as obliging to them as they would
resent it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost bizarre. My leadership team doesn't even know everything I do. They just know that when they want to do something, they call me. I got their back, and I got cover fire, and I start working the phones, and we're doing this together. It could not be done by my Rolodex alone. I don't think it could be actually done by our collective energy. I think that God has blessed this moment, because I like to put this perspective on my management team. So we got the leadership team of the names that I read out. Then we got a management team, but then we have a coalition team that's big. And on the management team, I privately tell them this: we know that God is here because every day we're supposed to be dead. How is it that we are living every day? And if every day is a blessing, and I mean that. We have 100% of the media, 100% of our intelligence agencies, 100% of the world against us. We have elements of Trump's own family against us. There are people who want us to sit down and shut up. There are people who want us to take the perilous court battle, the losing court battle, and just shut up. And they don't understand the relationship between public protest and court battles. But I've studied the civil rights movement, so I do. And I just say every day, God must want us to be doing this because we're still here. And it's hard to even explain that, but I just want to slow that thought down. Every day we're supposed to be dead. Every day we're not funded. No one has called me and said, Ali, I got $50,000 for you for buses, flights, and security. No one. And billionaires know me. Millionaires know me. They're patting me on the back, and none of them have offered me that kind of money for my friends.
Yeah.
So the thing is, we're supposed to be dead, but we're not dead.
And right before this, you and I were listening to my devotional music. So I always try and keep in a spirit of appreciation. And we've got a lot of questions here, so I'm going to want to take them. I will say one thing, and I was thinking about this a few days ago. I texted Michael Cernovich. He had a great Periscope, right? And his Periscope was very, very genuine, because he said, listen, I've spent the last few years, and now I'm very vulnerable, right? Now he's like, listen, I'm the one who's vulnerable. You guys can just walk away. I'm the one who, lost business, lost career opportunities. I've been potential for violence has always been present wherever I go. With people who are opposed to me, and now there's a very real concern that with the Biden administration, they're really going to go after all the hubs. And he's like, and you people can just walk away. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, I don't know how much of this I want to talk about, but me and my friends have signed our death warrants, and certainly we have signed up for bureaucratic bullying. There's a 90% chance that Joe Biden is going to take this, is how I'll phrase it. And yet, those are pretty good odds because 10% plus God is 150%. And this is my hill to die on. And, when you choose your hill to die on, you're not accepting death. You're accepting that death is a reasonable outcome because life without having taken that challenge would be miserable, insufferable, and in league with the devil. And it's like, I'm already on Kamala Harris's radar from 2019.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then I'm already on Biden's radar for JoeBidenIsSick.com. This sealed whatever fate.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I can live I can live and die for that.
And I want to get to some questions, but I'll throw in one more thing, right? And I hate to get the last word, but I really just did, right? Is that some of the criticism, and I hope some of your critics are here because I think that they deserve to have the opportunity to have that kind of interplay. Is they think that let's imagine that Biden wins. However, whatever winning is, by default he wins. Right? However we can define winning, he is now the president. It's unfortunate, but let's just imagine that. Some people would like to believe that that his mantle, the Trumpism, right, just continues magically. I know this. I can tell you, just as you clearly expressed with your own look, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen without people really convening and without a lot of activism. It's not going to happen in this fragmented, Trump net roots destroyed type of world we're living in with a Javert chasing every Trump supporter.
Yeah.
So we've got questions. So Sherlyn, Melissa, I guess that's Melissa Sherlyn. That's a very nice picture. Says, how do third parties get to sign electronically for Georgia voters?
I don't understand the question. How do third parties get to sign electronically for GA voters? Oh, how are third parties, like individuals, getting to sign electronically for GA voters? I'm not aware of that, but obviously, if that is happening, it's probably happening through not a power of attorney, but the consent that someone can sign your name because of the COVID regulations. It can't be overstated that Joe Biden, who claims a narrow victory, would not have won without COVID. And again, I don't even think he won. But it's, and Adam, again, you've been ahead on this issue. The scary part of this, and you're not telling the public what you tell me, but it's like, if you think that all of this stuff is connected, then you have to say that Georgia has been on the mind of oligarchs and plotters since 2019, when there was a consent decree that allowed for absentee ballots to basically go unchallenged. And that's before COVID.
Oh, this was well before COVID. This happened. I knew in 2000, I knew Trump was going to win in 2016, and I knew that they would never let an insurgent win again. And I knew it wasn't directed really against Trump because Trump's kind of a laughable buffoon. He gets along with everybody. He's super smart, but he's super persuasive. But there's a buffoonish quality that kind of is endearing in its own way.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't think that they were out to prosecute Trump as much as clearly as everybody else has observed. They were out to demoralize and destroy dissent that expressed itself, a wager and a revolt that expressed itself through Trump. So we're going to go on. Generator 16. who again I know offline, so thank you again for being here, says that Rasmussen reported that 30% of Democrats questioned the validity of the election. I'm one of them.
Thanks to Stop the Steal. The main polls say that 47% of people believe that the election is stolen, 70% of Republicans, 30% of Democrats. This is a huge testament to the work of my friends who went out to every state and held rallies. This is a huge testament to everyone collectively using the hashtag and linking stopthesteal.us, people changing their bio links to stopthesteal.us. You have to understand, if 47% are willing to tell pollsters that the election was stolen, how much higher is the real number? And so we're having a moment that the USSR was not afforded, that most Eastern European countries aren't afforded, but a lot of South American countries are afforded. And I'm tracking this, and people who are on our side in the good parts of intelligence and former intelligence, that's why we think we have a fighting shot. That's why Sidney Powell, General Flynn, and Linwood think we have a fighting chance, because we're watching an anomaly occur at a classic coup level, but a sophistication that Earth has never seen. So there are a lot of firsts happening, but I'm really glad that there are 30% of Democrats questioning the validity of the election, and that to me is also a sign that they have been stealing from more progressive candidates in primaries as well.
I'm one of those Democrats, and I've been very fortunate in life, but as a Democrat, that kind of the one of the things that they sold me for 30 years was that we were going to try and resolve all the violence in the cities and all the racism, and I gave a lot to that, and I never needed anything back. So politics is a business, right? But I never needed any of that business back. I would spend the money, and I would help out all the big people reaching their bundling goals, everything like that. But I never needed anything back because I was already set. I didn't need anything. And now I'm just disappointed because all of those politicians that I know really, really well have, they've forgotten everything. It's kind of like that slate. Everything has been memory hold. And now everything that I raised money and gave money for is actually like the racist thing all of a sudden. And now, for 30 years, I was against the roll-up of megacorps because I knew that they would take over all of the communications channels. And now it's something being celebrated by the Democrats.
Yeah. Yeah, it's disgusting. I'll tell you this, Adam. Trump has changed my views on a lot of economic issues. I was opposed to tariffs because as a conservative, I was told that they did not work. Trump totally proved that to be false. And I got to tell you, I'm going to change my opinion about a progressive tax code too, because I do think that the decadence sullies the mind, especially if it's a multi-generational wealth. And I would like to tax the hell out of them.
But you're not going to be able to capture it. That's one of the difficulties.
Right.
To people. Wealthy people in family offices are going to use the same tax inversions and same tax treaties and arbitrages and stripping. I could go into details on it that Google and all the major corporations use. And all I need to do is to create a corp and throw a friend of mine or a family member into the Cayman Islands, and I can use that as a tax route, and all my money flows there. So really, the only money that you can really capture, right, is wage earner money. That's
right.
it. Because
that's why I want to close it all.
Close
it all. Like I want to fundamentally imagine a world where everyone, I don't want to say is allowed, but like there shouldn't be trust. There shouldn't be the opportunity to wire money overseas. There shouldn't be any of that. We have to find some way, I hate to say this, but to punish multi-generational decadence.
Yeah.
I'm sounding like some, whatever. I don't even want to say whatever, but I'm sounding like some whatever, but it's a serious problem. There is multi-corporate media should be protected somehow. Like non-profit media should be a thing, but for-profit media or mega corporations that aren't rooted in media, then getting into media, that should be against the law.
We're going to keep going though. Okay. Yeah. Because I do this a lot and there's like a speed type of thing. So it's kind of like we're competing to buzz in on Jeopardy. But you're the only person buzzing in. But you still got to okay. So Dixie Cup of Joe, thank you so much for being here. And the picture you've used really is a cup of Joe. So that's pretty cool. And an egg, I think. So Dixie Cup of Joe says, this is a fight of good versus evil, not Democrat versus Republican. We must work together.
Absolutely. And that's why Stop the Steal is focused on fair elections, transparent counting, and ending the lockdowns, the steal of our liberties. That's it.
And here, it's Generator 16 because I just saw it. Cerno is great. Look, I was so impressed, and I texted him. I was so impressed with some of his most recent periscopes because he's really communicating to everybody his own frustration and his own kind of, I hate to say it because I don't want to speak. I can only tell you the way I take his messaging, right? I don't know if this is how he intends it, but it's how it's being received, is his own frustration with people who are demanding that he mobilize and that he kind of expose himself and make himself vulnerable, but they themselves don't want to. And it's kind of a real burden to him. And at the same time, I know that 3 years ago, if Cernovich went on CNN to say that we should bomb Syria, his whole career would have been on a different trajectory right now. So I'm appreciative to Cernovich because I realized the sacrifices he's made for something that he truly believes in.
Yeah, it's true. Cernovich and I, full disclosure, brothers. We talk on a daily basis. Talk to his wife. I love his kids. We started out as enemies in 2015 and 2016, and then became admirers of each other's work, I think, in late 2016. But I knew Andrew Breitbart, and Andrew Breitbart was sitting on the board of my nonprofit when he died. And I've been wrong about a lot of figures, but that's usually how I know that they're a hero. I was wrong about Andrew at first, right about him at the end. I was wrong about Milo at first, and then right about him, and then probably wrong about him again. But then, and then I was wrong about Cerno. And I think that Cernovich, his impact on the world, people will always underestimate it. But I can tell you in my own life, there's not been anyone more valuable to the growth and the freedom of my career and my personality than Mike Cernovich. And I can't disclose that all publicly, but
I've watched him I went to that Hoax premiere, and earlier that day, I was hoping that he could join me with Reese Schonfeld, who's my wonderful mentor, and unfortunately, he's left his body. And he co-founded CNN, and he would have loved to engage with Mike, and they could have had kind of like a dialectal kind of combat. And Reese was just as much of a critic of CNN as Mike was, because Reese was a true journalist. And so I really appreciated Hoax because I remember some of the scenes where they show the children, right? And they use that as this kind of visual device to get people to want to bomb things, right? Who could do this to a child? And now that Biden is president and Trump delivered so much peace, I can imagine the media is going to spend the next few years, if unfortunately Biden is brought into office, that the media is going to spend the next few years giving us lots of pictures of deceased children, and we're supposed to bomb their, we're supposed to become interlopers and bomb whoever did this, and it's just going to be kind of bad. And then I also thought about the violence that he forecasted between the left and the right, which is at the end of Hoax, and he's doing really good things. So the business guy in me loves that type of stuff. It's not only just the person type of me, but I like seeing people succeed, right? It's a gift that keeps on giving. So I'm going to, there was a really good question here from Ayakundi, and I recognize that picture. And perhaps I'm not saying her name as I should be, and I apologize for that. So Ayakundi asked, how can people help? This isn't just for one party. This is for our entire nation. Ali?
So they can go to stopthesteal.us. On stopthesteal.us, there's 3 things that you need to do. You can sign up for the text message code that's in the top left, I think. You can donate using the donate button. And then there are 5 states where we have posted the numbers and the email addresses of the state legislators. So that's Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Georgia. And so if you live in one of these states, you can plug in your address and it will tell you who your state rep is and who your state senator is. If you don't live in the state or you don't want to type in your address, you can click a view all button. You can see all of them, Democrat and Republican. And we have a script up there where we want you to call them and ask. We're asking for something very simple. Put out a press release that says you support a special session that gives oversight over the election. And don't worry, I've got a plan for the rest of it. The problem with politics is that they usually ask something that's way too specific or way too hard. And I'm asking something very, very simple. But the trick, just between you and I, is I know what comes next. If I get those press releases, I can get them in a special session. If you get them in a special session, I'll put 50,000 people around the Georgia State Capitol, and I'll be in control.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second, right? And I didn't interrupt you because you had already finished, but I wanted to interrupt you, right? Is that, and I just discussed this with somebody else, that one of the things that I'm actually impressed with what you guys are doing is, and I think it's a failure of a lot of other activist type of organizations that are out there, is that you guys have done most people don't know how to ask the right questions. So they're not going to get, in exchange, you're not going to get the right answers, right? If you don't ask the right questions.
And you lose momentum.
And most people don't actually know how to. I don't really worry too much about people's answers. I worry more about my own questioning or about the person's question, right? And I worry about their answer secondary. So most people don't know how to ask those questions. So what I'm very impressed with you guys is I can see kind of the layering of it, how you've done it tactically, very Socratically. You guys are trying to take this entire mess of an election and Socratically break it down. And it's really remarkable to watch. So I appreciate that. And we're going to go on. So Sustained Gluttony, who's Diesel. I'm going to do one of his periscopes. He's Diesel. I'm not as Diesel as him.
Look at that. Wow.
The guy is remarkable. And I think I met him through John Fitch. I forget who I met him through, but he has a really good diet plan, so I want to find out more about it. Thank you so much for being here. Says Adam, what specific incidents do you believe most strongly point to a fraudulent 2020 election? I'm going to let Ali answer that, but first I will say one thing. I was thinking about this today. I think a lot, right? And is that the science of it. You know, everyone talks about believe in science, and, you know, science says this, and I think Biden has like a tweet storm that says something about science. Is the science of the election is absurd. So I'll let Ali respond to that. Sustained Gluttony says, what specific incidents do you believe most strongly point to a fraudulent 2020 election?
Well, I mean, the question was for you. It might be a good question for a layman, but I think you answered right. The science.
Yeah, the science of it.
Well, so I would piggyback on that. Is that if I was allowed a half hour on Tucker Carlson and you gave me a whiteboard, I could convince 90% of the American public that the election was stolen. And it's basically this: how did Trump, as an incumbent president, gain voters, millions of voters? So that's on top of the 9 million voters that crossed over from the Obama-Biden ticket and not support Hillary, but instead supporting Trump. That's 9 million people. So not only did Trump hold all those people, he then got millions and millions and millions more. And he gained with blacks, Hispanics, the senior myth that he was 20 points behind with seniors was always a myth. And then he didn't actually lose with these women. They want us to believe that he lost 3 to 5 points with white men, and that he exceeded expectations in Ohio and Florida, 2 bellwether states, but then somehow lost only by a little bit, only strategically in Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Pennsylvania. And then there were 2 backup red states that needed additional days of counting, and they found ballots in Fulton County, Chatham County, and then Maricopa County. This is the biggest, I don't want to cuss, this is the biggest, stupidest thing. And the saddest part of it for me is that it means that America's education system is worse than I thought, and our IQ is worse than it thought. Because I can prove scientifically, mathematically, and so can every other political scientist in this country, by the way, that the election was stolen mathematically.
Well, that's what happens in, and I want to get on to the next question. I see this LA Jen is here, but I do want to discuss that. That's what happens when everybody's been ripped apart by this centrifugal force. When everyone's been locked in their home, everyone becomes atomized, everyone becomes solipstic. Um, and I would make it solipsist, but I have a little bit of a lisp, so it's impossible for me to say that. So I just say solipstic, and everybody's become kind of unrulable, right? And everybody's education is so bad these days, and it's a generational problem. But they all have their own language, right? I mean, gender doesn't mean the same thing to me as it means to somebody else, and to somebody else doesn't mean is what it means to that person, even their own best friend. They all have their own definitions. There's no agreement on words. So there certainly can't be any agreement on a stolen election.
Hey, can I add one tagline? Is if you believe that Joe Biden won, then you don't believe in political science. It's just that simple.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. It's upsetting to observe. It's upsetting. I'm an observer of this because I'm like Thucydides, but at the same time, I do get emotionally engaged, and sometimes I go on a Twitter rant and people get pissed. So this LA Jen, thank you so much for being here. Says those of us with names and pics out there can't just walk away from this.
Yeah, and actually Jen is a part of our management team. She's a part of the admin team and has been a great supporter of mine and Mike's and other people. She's always stepped up to the plate as a single mother. And, you know, I will say that if you're not out in the streets for this, if you're not supporting this, and that doesn't mean you have to support me, okay? But if you're not supporting this, then you don't believe that you need to be self-governing. And the oligarchs are doing this. They are taking the temperature to decide, do they make their big play now or do they make it in 50 years? I would rather them make it in 50 years. And so my goal is to create enough chaos that the American oligarchs decide to take out their own plan, because we can't beat them, but we can get them to concede because they want slaves. They don't want to kill us. They want slaves. And if we stop buying their sugar, if we stop watching their TV, and we don't buy their Chinese plastic, they will take out Joe Biden. We don't have to take out Joe Biden. They'll take out Joe Biden.
Well, you know, you're definitely right. I see these. I've known some of the oligarchs, right? I've known some of the old ones, and I hear them criticized on the media. And I say oligarch. I know some of them, you know, pretty well, and I like some of them, to be honest with you, pretty well. But I know that being an oligarch is a very complex thing, right? You know, there's a lot of complexity to it, and they're not just normal human people. You know, sometimes they're kind of a proxy for the State Department, and they're doing things that other agencies can't do because of FOIA. There's a lot of activity back there, man. It sounds like a coffee.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, you know, we got this guy doing some plastic stuff.
No, it's cool. But let me continue. So these new oligarchs, these new kind of the old oligarchs were manageable, the Paul Singers and the Soroses and all the others, because at the end of the day, they were used to. They had empathy. They were kind of emotionally attached to a lot of other people. They employed thousands of people. They saw their work as frequently. These new ones, the Zuckerbergs, the Jacks. Well, Jack isn't really an oligarch, but he's definitely there. He's definitely you know, an operational agent. But you know, the Eric Schmidts and so forth.
Eric Schmidt.
Yeah. He's no joke, right?
No.
And but they're nihilist. They just don't believe in anything, and they look at humanity as a flawed business model.
Yep.
And it's a real danger. And a lot of them have a kind of an Asperger's, right? Yep. And I'm big into chess and to Scrabble and to mathematics. I'm a venture capital, obviously. So I've seen this before, and I don't think of it as a bad thing because there's a lot of brilliance to it. But one of the ways of kind of observing Asperger's, or one of the side effects, or whatever it is, whatever the most gentle term for it is, right, is that they have difficulty building up those emotional bonds and relationships with other people. And you can see it. These people are just out of control.
They will hurt people if they think it's for the good. And that's what people need to understand look, the oligarchs still serve an order. And you think that order can be organization, or it can be an ideal, or it could be a religion. You know, we don't have to debate that here and now. But the oligarchs are serving a multi-millennial plan.
Oh, yeah.
And they what they need are slaves to build the pyramids. And also what they need is they believe themselves to be enlightened, and they believe themselves that their job is to use us and abuse us until we can all share it. But they've accepted that. They've said, you will have to hurt people until everyone can love each other. And this is actually embedded in John Lennon's song. You know, and you may disagree with me or whatever, but imagine, but like, these are actually, in my opinion, you know, I'm a Christian and I study philosophy. These are actually evil songs and evil ethos, because I don't believe their goal, utopia, can never be accomplished. So all you will do is abuse people. And the people who will get abused the most are the wage earners and the less thans and the brown and the women. And so in my opinion, the pursuit alone of enlightenment, or bringing heaven to earth instead of going to heaven after you've accomplished some task, is a truly evil one, and it hurts people.
Yeah, and I want to continue on with this question. No worries, 2020. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for joining some of the other ones. And I still think about you as my second favorite salesperson in the whole world. So thank you very much. So, and I'm going to respond to this first, and then I'll let you respond to it as well. So the person says, "Say what you will, but Ali is a fighter, and that's what the moment calls for." And I agree, because I've seen criticism of Ali, and the people who have criticized him are conservatives. And I don't know what's the difference between them and an SJW, social justice warrior, except they're a disemboweled social justice warrior. So it's kind of a disgraceful thing to say, because the things that I don't like about the GOP is the criticism that's been thrown against you, because it's supposed to be like this inclusive type of thing. This is supposed to be a new GOP that embraces kind of people and humanity, and already they start casting people out. You know, it's just kind of odd.
Well, it's my party now, so they're not casting me out. They're signing their own exit slips. That's the way I look at it. The pulse of the people. I never thought that people who collectively, I probably got attacked by, you know, I mean, it was basically 7 people yesterday, blue check marks, representing 10 or 20 million, you know, followers. I only lost 800 net followers yesterday when I should have lost 8,000. That means the people are independent. And that should terrify you, being on the other side of either it's the French Revolution or it's 1776. But I would want to be on the side of the people. If you're one of those people who needs to take a temperature, you should want to be on the side of the people, because the people, it's not that they've chosen me as their champion. I am championing. You know, it is love lived. If I was doing something that they didn't like, they would destroy me. The people are controlled by me. I am their useful sword right now, and so are my friends.
Well, so Ali, and thank you so much, and Mustang Girl, and thank you so much for joining us. And she's wonderful. So we've spoken offline as well. Says Ali represents me, and I'm going to say something in response to that as well, and then I'll let you say something. Right? And again, it goes back to some of the criticism that I've heard, and I've hosted a lot of parties, right? And you know, it's hard to host a good party. It really is. And I've hosted parties for 100 where it takes several days of effort to do that. And I've had people, sometimes it's infrequent, because my parties are kind of sweet like that and they're small. But I've had people who don't understand how much effort goes into it. They don't.
Right.
I make it look effortless.
And, yeah, I mean, that's one thing you have to accept as any organized. Even if you were a officer in a middle school club, you know, to get the room, to get the teacher to stay after school, to do all this stuff requires a lot of effort. So I guess, you know, that's something that just, you know, comes with the territory. People need to understand, and I don't want to brag about myself, but this at scale has never been done. This has never been done. This exceeds the Tea Party movement. This exceeds what the hippies did. It exceeds Occupy. It exceeds the Women's March. What my friends are doing, and then letting me co-sign on to as their glorified secretary, has never been done. And I just got to tell people a new paradigm is coming. Now, there may be two paradigms, the Biden paradigm and this populist rebellion paradigm, very much like Star Wars. But I will tell, this will reshape everyone. In the same way that Trump reshaped all of us, this will reshape all of us again.
So Generator 16, again, because they've asked so many great questions, says, Adam, actually it's to both of us. I think it's actually more important that it's responded to by Ali because he's that functional agent, right? He says, do you think plumbers are going to forget about Trump? And I guess plumbers being this kind of catch-all for the middle class and blue collar and gray collar.
No, they won't. Trump was a once in a century, but maybe more figure. And I like to say this, though. Our movement is pro-Trump. It's not a Trump movement. And yesterday, the move that, again, Don Jr.'s consultant made to try to override how voters are feeling in Georgia, and that people like me echoed, it was a serious mistake, because Trump and the family should not separate themselves from the movement that they inspired. But to think that they are the rulers of a movement, of a self-governing people, it actually damages the Trump family. And I don't want to damage the Trump family because they've given so much to us.
Wow, that's really interesting. That's really interesting. So, and that brings us into the next question. So, thank you so much, Jennifer Mediso, and that's a wonderful picture, and those flowers are very nice. And so, thank you so much for being here. Jennifer asks if Biden, or Jennifer comments, if Biden won, he didn't win, he was installed.
Correct. I say you can't be a winner if you're a cheater, and I will never call him President Biden. And I still believe that Trump can and will win the Electoral College, or that neither candidate will get 270, and then it will go to a House of States. And like I said, I'm living every moment, but I have contingency plans for Inauguration Day.
Oh, that's great to hear. So Hidden Pig, and I believe, just looking at some of the comments that they've made, is a bit of a critic, I think, overall, Trump, which is fine, because actually I don't like blocking people, because I'm very interested in engaging in people, and that's really what this is.
I love blocking people.
Yeah, I know you did, because I watched a lot of your Periscopes, but I'd rather engage, right? As long as I don't like profanity, right? I'm really against profanity. I don't like says that even if Biden was installed, he still won. Well, let's assume that that's correct, okay? Because I guess clinically it is correct that if Biden was installed, meaning that there was a elaborate kind of effort to get him in, then he still won. If I were to agree to that, I'm willing to agree to that, because I think that without a lot of outrage, which is also why I'm in appreciation, without a lot of outrage, history will not record this election accurately. And I think that's a real problem. And it's already begun in the media, where you can see it, because I think they've begun just celebrating Biden by, I think today I saw something about Kamala's sneakers, and something about, I've seen some really, and I keep them. I send them to my email for my logs. But I think, I'm Hidden Pig. My response to you then, I hear a little bit of noise.
That's me.
Yeah. Hidden Pig. My response then is, I'll agree to your assertion, and it's because that history will not record this accurately, and I think that's a big problem. So I do think we need protest, so that history will give annotation.
Right. That's such a good point, Adam, because not enough people, even high IQ people, can appreciate that history is contemporaneously now rewritten in the age of Wikipedia. And so let's say we lose, we have made history. And what is history? What should history be? A series of events. That's it. What happened. And we have made it more accurate. We have made a reflection. Our outrage and our objection has been recorded, so that the future might have a plan to better. The future could have a plan that they could make better. And so I would say that I disagree with this comment from this person who hates my guts, because, and I did block them, because the Catholic Church has had anti-popes, so popes that have ruled over the church that then they later went back and said, well, that was an anti-pope. All of their actions were actually null and void. And courts do this too, right? You know, Brown versus the Board of Education, Plessy versus Ferguson. So the idea that one can't have an authority, that the body of people can't have an authority that they then go to correct history, makes history our ruler instead of us ourselves. And I would rather, again, to be self-governing, you're yourself in the present, rule over, including everything in the history books.
Thank you very much, and I'm gonna continue with that. And
I want some hater comments. Can I answer some criticisms?
I see some, and I want to respond to them as well. So I'm going to respond to this one first, and then I'll give it to you because as I've disclosed, my mentor co-founded CNN with Ted Turner, and then he founded the Food Network. So I'm so appreciative of all the time that I spent with him. So he's still very much with me, and even more so when I reference him in this manner. So about Tree 50 says, I love how Trump-tards turned on Fox News as soon as they served a dose of reality. I never watch Fox News. I don't even watch CNN. I don't even have cable TV in most of my spots because I don't watch the news. I think that what Fox did was wrong. I am very much against this roll-up of power, right? I'm very much against it. And it was very clear that there's some type of a collaborative effort. And I think that's a danger. I think that's a danger for you just as much as it's a danger for me, just as much as it's a danger for those mothers in Baltimore and Chicago who are losing their children. And I'm not convinced that they're voting these politicians in whose actions are to defund the police, who are going to just make them even more vulnerable to crime. So I think this is a real problem. So I never turned on Fox. I thought what they did was wrong, and I thought it was clearly evident tactically what they were doing. They were trying to force Trump to concede.
Yeah, and people need to understand, especially in your business of finance, even though you take a very, long-term view on things, but in war, in finance, and in politics, anything that requires the stratagem of war, timing is so key, and that Fox did what it did, and that Arizona was the problem, and then Georgia magically became a problem once we started closing the gap in Arizona. Again, to people who are familiar with the intelligence community, know what we're watching, and this stuff does not happen in absence of each other. Fox News took out the knife when it did because it would hurt the most, and that's why Stop the Steal needed to bandage the wounds so that Trump could keep fighting.
Yeah, and Fox News, look at the board of directors of them, right? It's crazy. I look at these things. Because we're seeing the roll up of power, and we're just seeing fewer and fewer megacorps that are out there. Look at the board of directors. Bringing Paul Ryan on was not really a surprise. The same is true with Disney. We're just seeing so few companies that I don't think Fox is. There's so much activity, and it sounds like they're doing carpentry.
Yeah. I just got a whole little party in the background.
Yeah, cool. So Fox is nobody's friend. They're not your friend. They're not my friend. CNN is nobody's friend. And they're all, let me tell you, for the next several years, should Biden be sworn in, as I think as Alias said, or he suggested through this, it's almost a papal schism. There's almost a papal schism. So let's say that Biden is brought into office. Fox is just going to be spending the next several years pounding for war and for bombs and upsetting. We just had Middle East peace. They're going to be pushing for disruption of Middle East peace. Fox is nobody's friends. So I don't know if Trump people turned on Fox as much as they already had so few places to retreat to that they just found Fox was no longer a hospitable place for them to retreat to.
Yeah, I mean, what people need to understand is that Roger Ailes pitched Rupert Murdoch Fox with the premise that the news media was unfair, that they needed a counter narrative. not just for political ends, but for market ends, that there was a demand. There was a hidden demand that exceeded that of all the rest. That was a very crazy, bullish idea. And if Roger Ailes had had $100 million of his own money, he would have started Fox News by himself, but he didn't. And so, so Fox News's whole reason for existence is that it will run contra of mainstream broadcast and mainstream cable. So one, Fox News has stopped serving its fundamental thesis, its fundamental reason for existing. And then additionally is that we believe in self-representation. The second a pastor, a president, a political leader, a hero, a mother, a father, a wife, a husband, stop representing the consent, the agreement that bound you, why would you want to be affiliated with them? So the idea that this person believes that we should serve Fox News is very fascinating. I don't even watch Fox News. I've never been a Fox News viewer ever. I hate it.
I've watched Tucker a few times because Alan Bokhari was on it. I love Alan. Darren Beatty's been on it, so
he's good.
Yeah, they're both really good, and both of them are very helpful as I kind of try and chronicle this fastest roll-up of power in history. Because Alan is the only one that I know that's chronicling the social media as diligent. He's doing it more diligently than anybody else. The left is very afraid to chronicle social media because of how quickly they can be cast out of their circles. So Awakening says, can you provide more info about the broken pipe in Georgia the night of election?
I'll just say we're investigating, and all is not what it seems.
What does that mean, though? I mean, can you help me better understand what that?
Election night, there was a in the State Farm Arena where they were counting ballots for Fulton County, which is a Democrat county in the Atlanta Metroplex. There was a report that a water main was broke, so they needed to stop the counting. Well, they stopped the counting, but they kept going until about 1 a.m. or something else like that.
Oh,
And all I can tell you is all is not what it seems there, and we are investigating.
Yeah, I heard about that, but I didn't really hear any details of it. So thank you very much. So MAGA Mama 2020, I seem to recognize that picture.
That's Sidney Powell's face.
Oh, is that really? Oh, that's so funny. So she comments, and thank you for being here, says Beatty, which is Darren Beatty, has been on War Room with Steve Bannon recently. He's awesome. I did a Periscope with Darren that a few weeks before he announced his relationship with Revolver, and also at the very earliest part of the discussion of the coup against Trump. And we had a long discussion beforehand also, because tyrannies always turn inwards. And Darren is an academic, so he can he's helpful with giving a lot of historical context to that, and a lot of the mechanical context to that as well. Ali, do you follow Darren? Have you been watching him?
I follow him. I respect his work. You know, he just joined the administration, and you know, he's a true intellectual. I think he has Jewish heritage, but they call him a white supremacist. I don't know. You know, we probably don't agree on everything, but I've never heard him make a poor case for any of his arguments. I respect him.
And Danny Islander, because I wanted to find some critics, and there's not enough people here because there's not enough people that are critics, which is good and it's bad because I want to be responsive to them as well. So Danny Islander said a broken pipe erased 587 million Trump votes, LOL. And I suppose they didn't mean, 587 million, but I understand kind of the spirit of their comment. And that picture is, I think, Misery with Kathy Bates, and that was a good movie. So I would say that I think you're missing a point, and I think you have to be very cautious of that because, the political parties, the DNC and the RNC is no longer what they used to be. They're just kind of a money collector. They're a cash register now that then puts some disbursement locally. But really what they are is just a vehicle to be able to give larger sums and then kind of disperse it out to the parties, to the individual little regionals. Around 2010, to around 2012, the DNC and the RNC were effectively bankrupted. And so what happened, and this was a tactic, and Hillary Clinton particularly employed this with the DNC, and that allowed them to assert a lot more control and influence over the little regional despots of the little regional political type of despots. So I think what you're looking at Georgia exclusively, right? And I'm trying to look at kind of the science of the thing, which is there's a lot of peculiar numbers that really need to be forensically looked at, and we're neglecting to do that. And if we're neglecting to do it in this instance, it will happen again because we've given them carte blanche, and they're going to use those same tactics against us. So tyrannies always turn inwards, and now we're the ones fighting. And so I understand your comment, and I understand its dismissiveness, and I'm not going to criticize or nor compliment it, but I want to put it in perspective that these little parties are operating kind of as little despots. And
what's dismissive?
What is that?
What did you think was dismissive?
Of what their comment was?
Oh, their comment. I thought you said something I replied to was dismissive.
No, I think their comment is suggesting some type of dismissiveness or some type of absurdity to it. And
right.
Yeah. I mean,
this is what I call them. I call them phantom arguments. So I just made a comment that here's what happened objectively, here's what was reported publicly, and that we're investigating. So what will happen is the opposition will pretend that I said something differently, or that I said something an extremely uninformed person on my side may have said, and they will use that to debate me. But that's a phantom version of me. And I'm quick to remind us that the internet actually encourages this behavior. And all we have to do is stop and say, can I talk for 3 sentences? And if I can, people will come back down to their senses. But it is a dopamine rush that, that I should be the avatar for all arguments that are pro-Trump in this election. No, neither is Sidney Powell, neither is Lynn Wood, neither is Donald Trump himself. Neither are you. We should all be individuals. And so this person should ask themselves what caused them to say something absurd that no one said on this broadcast.
Well, I think that, and another part of the dangers, and I'm not going to accuse them of it, but just that I've observed is that the media engages in a lot of sophistry, right? And they play a lot of games with the ambiguity of language.
Yes.
So
they study it.
Yeah. So, my fear then, Daniel Unger, is that I don't think what your point is unreasonable, but I don't know if we engage in it further, if it would just become some type of an apparetic type of conclusion that would not lead to anything satisfying to either one of us.
Yeah. That's the irony of it is that the answer wouldn't satisfy them. If you're in pursuit of an answer, ask the question. And a lot of people are afraid to ask the question because it presents vulnerability.
Now, can I bring up probably something that I personally would like to respond to it, because it's part of what I detest now about the GOP. But it's an accusation of fraud that goes back many, many years. May I bring that up? Would that be all right? And I want to respond to it first, right? So Fort Worth 98 is Ali stole credit cards in Fort Worth. And my response to that is, so let's assume that and I don't know how these things work out, but I'm of the belief that we're supposed to be forgiving of other people's actions. I'm also firmly of the belief that that we're not to judge anybody. We're not talking about any type of a violent offense or a horrible offense. And I look at my own behavior going back many years, right? And all I can do is apologize to those people, if those people are obtainable for me to apologize to, and they may not be, and also apologize to myself and try and understand. But I am not going to be my own Javert, right? And I don't think I'm going to permit anybody else to be my Javert and lock me up for a loaf of bread, right? And I'll say one other thing. It's kind of something that I kind of don't understand about the GOP, right, and conservatives. And it's something that's going to piss a lot of people off about building a new movement, right, which I would love to see happen. is that the conservatives are just becoming their own kind of social justice wars. But like I said, they're disemboweled social justice wars.
Yeah.
While at least the left is a little bit more permissive and compassionate, right? All of a sudden, the conservatives are saying, "I'm the only conservative one here, and I've got to give you my blessing." And it's just a kind of it's a kind of hateful thing, and it's what people hate about the way the Conservative Party looks. It's what people are going to hate. How are you going to bring in how are you going to be inclusive to all of the outsiders and everybody else in this world? And it's dangerous. So Ali, could I ask you, would that be all right to be responsible?
Yeah, it might be a long answer.
I think a long answer or a short answer, however you feel would be most responsible.
Well, if anyone wants to buy a shirt with my mugshot on it, we're selling the second edition at gumroad.com/Ali Alexander. So
that's actually a nice shirt.
Yeah, because I'm free. Those are NPCs attacking me, and they're all yelling mugshot, mugshot, mugshot. But anyway, what I want to tell this person, which they know because they stalk me, is this isn't something that I hide from the public. This is something that happened 15 or 16 years ago. And just so that everyone knows the situation, which I actually hate talking about the situation because it's not that exciting, is I've never stole anybody's credit card. My friend took his roommate's credit card, and I drove him to an ATM where he said that his roommate owed him rent. That was not the truth. During the situation, it became clear it wasn't the truth. Should I have turned in my friend at the time when I was 20 years old? Yeah. When the police questioned me about it, should I have cooperated instead of being an arrogant punk kid who had a lawyer as a mother and saying, well, you can't charge me with anything? Yeah. So I actually got charged as an associate to his crime. And then I went on probation. So I was charged with the felony. I was not convicted of it. But that doesn't stop everybody else from saying this and that. The crappy part is that I disgraced my mother. My mother is a woman who does not share my politics, and she is a prominent lawyer in 2 parts of the country. And the worst thing is being arrested at your mother's home, and that costing us 6 to 8 months of our relationship. And the second worst part is that I have some James Brown looking mugshots on Google Images, and those get thrown into my comments, and it's not really a big deal. But I do want to just disclose to everyone that to me, it doesn't matter if I stole it or didn't steal it. I shamed my mother. I dishonored my name. I could have done better. That's between me and the alleged victim and my mother. But I've not hidden it from my audience, and I have every right to not talk about it with my audience. But as the comments are testifying in Periscope, I regularly talk about my failings to point to what you can accomplish. And if the system calls you a felon, you can still accomplish everything I've accomplished. I've been cleared by Secret Service to be with the president and Republican nominees 50 times or more. I'm a popular figure who has visited with Jack Dorsey, Kanye West, Donald Trump, and other Fortune 500 CEOs. Let my story be a story that people with anonymous names cannot hold you back. People will. It's hard. It is hard. Okay, dealing with all this is hard. But if you have a high verbal IQ, if you have a high EQ, and you can withstand these attacks, you can accomplish everything in life. And I am richly blessed. I get to do what I want. I'm my own boss. I employ other people.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue on. It's the same point, and I'll tell you about my experience, how this came up. Is Conservative May, thank you so much for being here. That's a very nice picture. Says that cancel culture is annoying. It is, and here's this kind of liberal Democrat, which is me, right? Liberal Democrat. And I saw at the beginning of Stop the Steal some criticism that people were DMing me. Many people were DMing me, in fact, about Ali. And I put in an inquiry into them and I was very interested in their responses. And they said, well, Adam, we think that people should know the type of person that he is, and that they felt that they had some type of responsibility to be that cancel culture person that they find so objectionable when the left does. And so I said to them, this was actually several people, so many people that actually copied and pasted it. to be responsive to them. And I said, well, so you feel that I can discern information for myself so much that you need to act as some type of a filter to what I should be engaged in, what I shouldn't, and what news I should get. So for me, it was like they're a cancel culture person, but just on the other side. They're telling me what I should know, what I shouldn't know, what I should see, what I shouldn't. And then I'm not smart enough to be able to process it and synthesize it and discern it for myself. And it was the conservatives doing it.
Well, let me tell you this, because what's sad about this is I can't even think about myself. I'm worried about the impression that you're getting of our movement. And our movement, it's only a minority of people who hate me. They're very vocal, and they're people who have left their primary industry and trying to find money in politics. So they're the ironic, I don't even like the term grifters, but like ironically, it's an ex-cop, an ex-stripper, and then some guy who doesn't like Stop the Steal, who allegedly does some work with Sheldon Adelson and now does work with Don Jr. These are not people that I care about being judged by. And what I need to tell them, though, is like, how can we talk about the President's First Step Act if you're busy bullying me about this? How can you be an honest messenger of these issues? How can you say, I'm probably the most effective Black operative in the Republican Party, and then how can you say that we're a party that's for all, and then you treat me like this? But the good news is this: most Republicans don't treat me this way. Most conservatives don't treat me this way. Most Christians don't treat me this way. This is a minority view in my party. They're aggressive. They run bots. But I would say this is that they also are not doing themselves a favor with the numbers. Is everyone knows someone who has ran into the law, and so if you try to ostracize someone that a person's relating to, you actually hurt the broader message.
And I want to continue with that because I'm so fascinated by this, and it's upsetting. Honestly, it's upsetting to be an observer to it. But so Curious Monarch, and that's a really cool picture, right? Says exactly we're becoming filthy leftists. The thing that's interesting is, I live in New York City most of the time, and I know transgender people that voted for Trump. And I'll tell you how I met one of them, who's just a good friend of ours now, is I was very curious about that North Carolina bathroom bill, right? And so
North Carolina what?
That bathroom bill about like ID.
Oh, yeah.
I was very curious, and I knew this person in their prior identity, right? And we were friends then. And I'm a social person, right? So I'm not an offensive person. So I was genuinely curious, and I think people, appreciate that. So I said, well, what do you think of it? And she sat down with us, and she's been a friend for years now, ever since, and she voted for Trump. And when I think of people who are saying about Ali and this, and I think, is this a party that would allow my friend to be a member? I genuinely think of that. I'm like, is this a party that would embrace and welcome my friend? It's kind of a scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that like the second the Republican Party becomes our church or our litmus test or our wish list of friend group, then it stops being a political party. And the Republican Party platform has all these issues. And then, I don't know if it still says this, but like in 2008, when I was working for the GOP convention, it says, and I believe that the Republican Party is the best vehicle for these beliefs. And so the Republican Party is only a vehicle, and we don't do well to ostracize a coalition of allies. And like I said, I've worked for big names. I still consult big names. I get cleared by Secret Service. I've never committed a violent crime. I've never, stolen from a person. I dishonored my mother. That was my crime. I dishonored my mother, and that's something I will always carry with me. And the mugshot sucks, but
actually, the mugshot's not that bad. I got to be honest with you. Mugshot has its kind of coolness to it. It really does. You've got like that youthful James Deanish type of thing, man. So it works for you. It really does. So, Andrea City Mom, thank you so much for being here. I like that picture as well. It's pretty cool. So, says that my fear is that we become anarchists and Antifa. Ali?
I will tell you this. It's time for a tactical change, and but we don't need to fear becoming our enemies. We need to be discerning, and we need to be solemn about what we might be called to do. I'll put it this way: the founding fathers used guerrilla warfare tactics to defeat the British, and some left-wing professors have now called them terrorists. They weren't terrorists because they were doing it because they were morally justified, and but we should fear. That's what we should. That's what we should. We should be solemn about. But we don't need to be afraid of becoming anarchists, and we don't need to be afraid of becoming Marxist Antifa.
I'm going to close on, well, we're going to continue, but I'm going to close on kind of the past part, reconciling with the past with Mustang, and for her kindness and generosity and compassion. She says, I love Allie, who is without skeletons. I have a past. We all do. God bless him, anointed. We all have past. And Allie is in the unusual position that he is perhaps more vulnerable to them because of, it's so widely broadcasted on social media that normally our own past is within a small circle, right? And it's kind of ridiculous. But again, it's more upsetting to me when I see it's the GOP kind of doing it to you. And these are the people that are in 2 years, they're going to be, Trump, Cernovich during that Periscope that he deleted made some very interesting points. He really did. And he said that there's a lot of grifters in there. And they made a lot of money off of Trump, and he named it like senators and PACs and a whole bunch of other things who never supported and who just used the Trump name to leverage PACs and to make money, and they never did anything, and they were never advocates by any means. And there's I fear that in the future that's what's going to try and present itself as a Trump movement or as the movement of dissent. And I don't want that to happen. We need authenticity. We need a real genuine movement of dissent. So it's kind of unfortunate for people like myself who are looking for that home or not necessarily even looking for that home, but who know how vital it is to a functional democracy to see that home already being blown apart by a big bad wolf. So there's a lot of questions here. We're going to rip through them really quickly because everyone's been so nice to us for an hour and 42 minutes. And Allie, thank you so much for spending this time. But we got a couple more questions. So we're going to rip through. It's Family Feud. We're going to ring the bell, right? So Tim Heidegger, thank you so much for being here. T.R. Heidegger says, if I'm pronouncing your name right, I'm bad with that stuff. Allie has been a great advocate for people in distress for many years. Robert Stacy McKean. I don't know who Robert Stacy McKean is.
It was a person who was being attacked by a terrorist, and I raised money to get him and his family into safe harbor. And anybody who is actually familiar with my career knows that I do live in service. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. I don't have a boyfriend. I don't have anything right now. I'm a movement guy.
That was really quick, right? And so Brad Allen, 1971, thank you so much for being here, says, I'm surprised that there are so many supposed haters from the Trump side. Are they fake deep staters? And I'll respond to that first. I don't know if they're from the Trump side. Are they fake? Are they deep staters? I think that they associate themselves with Trump, and I think they're probably very sympathetic, to the Trump movement. But, if something's going to be durable going forward, we know that the establishment is going to try and crush everything, right? They've got all the apparatus. We know they're going to try and crush everything. So if something's going to move forward, it's we can't be killing it off, right? So it's amazing to watch them do it. It's very frustrating.
It's a combination. It's when you become the avatar for something successful, all of your enemies, detractors, and then people who disagree with you team up, and then they just trade off the same content. So there are Democrats, there are Republicans who have titles that are afraid of losing them. There are consultants who have lost, who are afraid of being called out. And then there are my normal enemies who follow me around for, years and years and years. But yes, there is also a deep state element to some of this. And then a bot network. There's this woman named Tori Lindemann who made a fake documentary, and she's running a botnet. So it's amplified sometimes.
Thank you very much. I was going through the questions. So Ramsey IV, it might be Ramsey 4, right? But I don't know. And that's a picture of Gaddafi I have. So Adam, you mentioned middle class protests will come under Biden taxes and then lockdown. Yeah, we know what's going on. I was kind of very early in forecasting it because I knew that this was going to happen, and tyranny's always turn inwards. And I saw this years in advance. I've been writing about it for a long time, so I saw COVID was that lever. But yeah, and middle class protests are coming. You're going to see taxes like you didn't know were possible. America has never existed under a hostile tax or business regime. You're going to now experience it, which means the dissent and protest is going to grow even louder. And it means Antifa has been, which is already a very powerful social force, a social movement, is going to become even more so as they're utilized and employed to beat up the middle class who really want to talk about taxes, and they're going to try and divide us. And I don't think the current GOP, Loeffler or whatever her name is, Purdue, they're not going to do anything. You think they're going to stop the mob? They're going to be signing on every single more taxes, they'll sign on it. The conservative case for what is that type of stuff that they teach in schools now? Fragility type of stuff. They're going to be signing it off. She's not going to be a bulwark against that type of stuff. So whether she wins or loses is in her own destiny. I think she should really be responsive to the people, and I think Allie's really kind of bringing forth the people as a convening force. And I think she needs to be more responsive to that force rather than try and pretend it doesn't exist. So yeah, there's going to be some protests. I can discuss the protests were happening in Germany. You're also going to see Biden go into Trans-Pacific Partnership again. You're going to see him re-enter the World Health Organization again. You're going to see him vigorously go into the Paris Accord. You're going to see things. The left has been selling this utopian vision of that wealth is going to be taken from me and delivered to their front door via Amazon Prime. It's not going to happen. You're going to see wealth taken from that lower income person who
Yep.
You're going to see wealth extraction taken from them and shipped overseas. It's not staying here. These elites don't think of themselves as American citizens. They made that very clear. And if you recall, in 2016, the Democratic Party didn't use any flags whatsoever. And in 2020, they did start using Democratic flags. So you're going to see a lot of protests, and we're going to need some type of counter-protest vehicle, right? Because it's not going to be the GOP. It's going to be some faction of the GOP, but it's not going to be the establishment GOP. It's going to be this faction. Hopefully, this faction can overtake what currently is in the GOP. Hopefully, it can overtake it. The only way to defeat this thing is like an alien, right? It's like the alien in that movie. You got to defeat it from within. You got to suck on its face and then plant your seed and then explode out of it. So I think that's what we need to do. So I want to see, and I see Hidden Pig said something. So maybe now they're, I don't know, but I'm going to close up on some of these because there's a lot of stuff here. Awakening says, Adam, make sure to throw a Tom Cruise question before signing off, please. We already know the answer. And it's funny because somebody sent me a Donald Trump tweet from years ago where he said Tom Cruise is like the greatest actor.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. So there's a lot of questions here, and I'm not going to be able to go through all of them. And it's my apology. So I'm just going to scroll really quickly. I see this one, and I'll be responsive to this while I look for some questions, right? And then I'm going to give it to Ali so I can look at the last questions. But they say, why are modern? It's again Ramsey the fourth. Why are modern American oligarchs lesser known? Know thy enemy. Look, they're happy throwing George Soros in front. I mean, George Soros is worth nothing compared to. I like Elon Musk though, right? But he's worth nothing compared to Bezos or he's worth nothing. He has no. Those are the old oligarchs. The old oligarchs have some legacy relationships with the activist industrial complex and some of the deep state apparatus, but nothing compared to these new guys, man. Jeff Bezos, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's all yours, Ali, because I got to scroll through some questions and then we're going to go.
Yeah. So what I would say is that you have to study the history of media, and America was born through activists more Christian liberty, individualist media, the Federalist Papers, etc. But then we also pioneered something very, very bad, and that was entertainment and infotainment. And so we led Europe in that. So we had more media, more diverse media, but what they found out is that the behavior worked. So then across decades, the behavior became one thing, and that was safe for the oligarchs to purchase. So the oligarchs have purchased all of our media. We don't actually have a free press. And using infotainment, they actually build profile pieces on themselves, and they build themselves as champions so that there's not room in your brain for champions of the people. Think, would there be room right now for Ralph Nader, a public advocate, a consumer advocate? There are none. There are simply bullies and Antifa or BLM that are used to police behavior and then codified into law by our bureaucrats, OSHA, the Labor Department, EPA, etc. Or there are people you are told to hate, and they're a racist. I've been called a white nationalist. So the media, you have to read Neil Postman's "Amusing Ourselves to Death" to understand this medium lended itself to this. And hopefully what I'm trying to show is that the internet can be used for something different and its original promise. Well, let me correct this. It's not founders.ali.com. It's founders.alialexander.org.
Ooh, Mustang, could you, I'm going to close on that, Mustang. So I'm going to wait for you to put that back up, or I'm going to wait for the next person to put that up, and we're going to close on that. So it's going to like be seen on
that. Thank you.
And because you referenced Postman, and he's got some great videos on YouTube, by the way, from 20 years ago. Amazing how prescient he was. Just absolutely amazing how he saw all this as it was beginning. Even David Bowie saw all of this, right? And I was very young, and I kind of saw intuitively that some things could go awry, but they saw the whole schematic of what it would look like. And it was just really interesting. So I'm going to include a little bit of that while I'm waiting for somebody. Ooh, they put it up there. Hold on, I got to catch it. Is that correct?
Yep, that's Diana there. Founders.alialexander.org. If you want to sign up for my analysis or monthly conference calls, that's my personal site. Right now, all my energy is going to stopthesteal.us. So I've actually, Adam, to tell you the truth, it's a little embarrassing. I've actually lost a dozen or so or 24 customers at founders.alialexander.org because I'm neglecting everything else for stopthesteal.us. But if people want to support me, they can support me. But I can always rebuild, maybe. But this is the fight. Stopthesteal.us is the fight. But I appreciate that Diana and Adam and Mustang Girl for sharing those links.
Yeah, and I had a conversation with John Robb a few days ago, and we were talking about Trumpism and what comes next. And I asked him to describe Trumpism, which he couldn't, do. He gave me examples of it, but then he also helped explain it, that is that he described it as what it's against. And there's going to be it's a really good Periscope. You should watch it. It was 2.5 hours long.
I watched 15 or 20 minutes of it.
It's interesting, right? And there's going to, he described what he believes, what happens next with Trump, what happens next with the GOP. But most importantly, what Trumpism, when asking to define what Trumpism is, he said what Trumpism is, it's about what it isn't, right? And it's a really interesting definition that he gave to it that was kind of exclusive, one and only type of Trumpism I was very interested in, that's uniquely type of Trumpism. But I think what happens next is going to need some way of expressing itself. So I think that it's going to create a lot of opportunities for people from that GOP disruption. The GOP cannot stay what it is now because it just abandoned Trump and abandoned everybody. There's no way for it to. There's no way, that anybody can say that Loeffler or Perdue, and I want them to win, because I do want there to be opposition, at least kabuki opposition to what happens next. But I think that the movement of dissent, which is powerful, is going to create a lot of disruption. It's going to create a lot of new stars, I guess, that will act as that coffee table book and as a convening force, right? Because in the end, there's a part of you that's a coffee table book, right? when you go to a party, it kind of people are going to go to that party and you're going to be part of the appeal, but then they're going to network within each other. And that kind of becomes viral and spreads out. So it's going to create some new stars who are going to be those people and be the coffee table books and going to be able to scale it, be able to operationally scale it into something that, that grows and then franchises it into different markets. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities to do that. And, I know you've given up a lot to do it. And my expectation is you're going to be one of those stars that will get us there. And we'll build on to that vehicle of descent. So I look forward to that.
I would, and I want to end with this. I kept meaning to work this into one of my answers and kept forgetting is that I want to be judged how I think everyone should be judged. And that's by their current actions. Now, if you want to take a longer view, then say, okay, well, what have they been doing? And I would say, if I'm useful to you, use me until I'm not useful to you. And you don't even have to become a detractor then. You can find somebody else who's useful to you. And I think that a lot of people would be happier if they looked at life that way. Donald Trump is my president. And as long as he's useful to me, I love it. And when he's not useful to me, I'll leave it. And we don't need icons, we need champions, and champions are called to fights of time. There's no permanent gods here. There's nobody to worship here on earth. What we need to do is go with actions, and we will know them by their fruits, is what the Bible will say.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, and we'll close up on it, but it's interesting because, the criticisms of you, the criticisms of Cernovich, of other people, Posebek, and people that I think are really genuinely very good people, and really are exposing themselves to a lot of downside, right? And to a lot of the volatilities of political opinions as they kind of move around so much, is that I try and mark people to the market. I really do. I don't really try and write the person's biography for them. I'm really not particularly interested in it. So I don't try and write their biography. So in finance, we have a term that's mark to market, which means how much is this worth right now? And it's a very valuable concept also in human relationships. Because if you're going to be somebody's friend, right, there has to be a certain amount of acknowledgement of our own humanity and fragility and frailty. So I think it's important and we've lost that on the internet a lot, is that we're not accepting each other as individuals and as human beings. We're looking at each other as this discardable type of thing. And so I think of that term in finance of marking the market, which is just where is it right now? How much is it worth right now? And I don't really try and backfill the narrative of what came before. It's not important to me. I mean, if I buy Tesla today, I don't believe in charts and stock charts and all that type of nonsense. I'm not really particularly interested in where it was 4 years ago. It's just it's inconsequential to me. So that mark to market in human relationships I found to be very helpful, and I actually got that and an understanding of human relationships from Seneca, from Letters to Lucilius. It was advice that Seneca gave to Lucilius, and Seneca became my very distant, faraway father. So I heed his advice. They're there, man. Dude, it's been 2 hours.
2 hours.
I feel like going on for another minute and 40 seconds, so it can be exactly 2 hours.
Well, thanks. We can do that. Thanks for allowing me the space on your platform, Adam. To again, it's Alexander Brushewitz, it's Scott Pressler, and some other names that I won't mention that have been messing around with me for 2 years, saying, this moment's going to come where you're going to be needed to stop the steal. And I was like, no. But here we are. And, life and God have a funny way of calling a man to a moment. And like I said, I'm so happy for my colleagues. You can see their faces at stopthesteal.us.
Yeah. And thank you so much. And thank you everybody else for joining us.
Yes.
And for allowing us to be guests on your Twitter feed this evening. So thank you very much. And hopefully we were a good guest. And I want to thank everybody. Ali, I'm going to press the button then stay with me a little bit, but everybody else is going to leave us. So again, thank you so much, everybody, and have a wonderful night. Bye-bye. And hold on, now I press the button.